Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a coffee, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Sense Your Goat, Click OK, and Vaxy Waxy in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good to have you. Did see someone else dip into the Discord server. I did specifically tell my participating Discord and G+ that I may not have shows this week because I've been in and out of hospital, which I have. But regardless, I still need to keep the lights on, so hence I'm going to have a couple of live shows if I can stomach the pain that I'm currently experiencing. And given the amount of painkillers I'm on, hopefully I can manage at least an hour today. So, yeah, if I seem a little bit incoherent, it's probably because of all the tablets I've taken. But they've definitely kicked in, so I can probably cope for at least an hour of chat and discussion about the flat Earth and the nature of reality that we all experience. Go ahead, Vaxy.
Oh, no, that was I hit the phone with my finger. I'm driving. I'll be home in a second. My bad.
No, right, no worries. Yeah, as I was explaining in the pre-show, everything at the moment seems to be against me. I'm sure it's just my general temperament and disposition towards the people around me who are seemingly ghosting me and ignoring me when I'm asking for specific things. Now, I don't necessarily want to share that with the public at this stage, because it might just be that the person gets back in touch and says, oh no, I just hadn't seen your message, which is often the case. But when you're feeling really under the weather, everything seems to be against you, and therefore anybody who's not doing exactly what you ask them immediately seems to be dead against you, or at least that's the perception that I've got. Along with my iPad, which is pretty old now, starting to play up, which is irritating to the absolute extreme when it's doing it every 10-15 minutes when you're typing stuff out on it, and I use the thing all day. Same goes for the computer. Set it for today's show nice and early, 20 past the hour, and by 10 to the hour I've only just started doing the intro for the pre-show because the computer just won't play ball, and I had to load my second monitor up just to get the OBS screen to come on, and then when it does, it's telling me that there's a piece of software, a plugin that's not working correctly, and that throws up an error message, and you're like trying to dig out the file in File Explorer via the videos that I've watched to try and rectify the problem, none of which is taking me to the actual file for the plugin that's not working. So just generally speaking, everything's starting to irritate me greatly. On top of a crap ton of pain, on top of constantly going in and out of hospital. Yeah, so things aren't great. Not the most fun times, I've got to be honest. Also, generally speaking, YouTube are giving me the runaround and messing me around with comments by removing them when I reply to people and not showing me the comments in the first place, meaning I've got to go into videos in the actual browser on the video itself to find half a dozen or a dozen comments that haven't shown up in my YouTube studio, regardless of how I click around to find them, and they just don't appear. So then you go into the actual video and see abusive comments, harassing comments that haven't been addressed. So you delete them in the video itself and then find that they haven't been deleted. You're like, what is going on? You're like, oh, right, it's because we are so over the target when we talk about how you, me, and anybody who ever measures Earth measure it flat. There aren't any exceptions. It doesn't matter if you're Dave McKeegan, who measured Earth flat for a 24-hour period in Antarctica, but for the fact that he was outsmarted by his own tripod, he would have measured Earth flat for a 24-hour period using elevation angles to the sun, or Simon Dan measuring elevation angles to the sun with 1,000 plus participants all using surface level of Earth for the elevation angles, 1,000 of them. So it doesn't matter who you are or your belief in a globe, you will, I will, we will, and it can only be, that's Earth, measured flat in all instances. So what does that mean for me? It means I get the mess around. I get generally jerked around by my commenters and YouTube, and I'm going to blame that on my computer and say that it's also connected to why I'm getting the run around and messed around with File Explorer. It's not, but that's how it feels. Anyway, Earth being measured flat is generally the reason why I believe the censorship is so horrendous. And then when I joined today's show, I was told by Sensual Goat that a videographer had produced a video suggesting that the statistics for flat Earth videos have plummeted. And this particular videographer saying, oh, well, that's because nobody's interested. And Sensual Goat pointed out, well, no, obviously it's the case that Simon Dan's still getting plenty of views on flat Earth videos. Dave McKeegan's getting plenty of views on flat Earth videos where they detract from us. They can specifically put me in their title and thumbnail and tags and get hundreds of thousands of views. Do we get any? No. Obviously, if you're a Globe believer, you're going to somehow take it as read that the massive censorship that we're currently experiencing is because nobody's interested in the subject. Oh, but simultaneously they are interested in Dan and Dave and Professor, not a Professor Dave, and all the rest of the anti-flat earthers who have all of the views funneled towards them. No, it's just YouTube are basically complete scumbags, and they are censoring me heavily, more heavily than ever, because we're talking about how me, you, and anybody who ever measures Earth measure it flat. And there aren't any exceptions. So the only thing that's not stressful is the argument that there isn't anymore. There is no debate about this subject. Earth was, is, and always will be measured flat by everybody in all circumstances that ever befall anybody if they want to measure Earth. Doesn't matter, like I said earlier, if you're a bull believer, you'll still require surface level, you'll still reference sea level, you'll still measure Earth flat for your bull belief. Which means I've got to get the mess around, it seems. I've got to be censored, it seems. I've got to struggle to pay my mortgage, it seems. I've got to take on extra jobs like flogging microphones and writing books just to cover my 10 years of experience on YouTube, because YouTube are censoring me, and my comments, and my replies to comments, and hiding comments from me, and tolerating people constantly using sock accounts to come back again and again and again and again and again. So YouTube are allowing people like Buck Sodbuster in my comment section, I'll put it up for the audience to see exactly what I'm talking about, to constantly spam me in spite of being banned. So this Buck Sodbuster character, who's a liar, has been banned. So what's he doing? He's coming back with hundreds of sock accounts to continually spam abuse. Now, I am absolutely sick of YouTube tolerating this kind of garbage. So in essence, this person's allowed to have multiple accounts with the exact same name. So if he gets banned, he can just come back again and again and again and again and again to harass me. It's harassment. Now, it doesn't seem to matter that I report Buck Sodbuster to YouTube with the little flag button for harassment. Nothing changes. He's got hundreds of sock accounts. In his delusional mind, we want to go over and talk to him. We don't. I've banned him, but he's still here. Why? Well, because YouTube tolerate this kind of crap.
As well, Nathan, is if YouTube had the chance, they'd use any retaliation that you make against him as vigilante justice, so therefore he'd be now the victim.
Yeah, exactly. So he's in the chat going, woohoo! Like what? Well done, you can be a scumbag in spite of me banning you multiple times, Buck Sodbuster. You know, you've gone around telling people that we really want to be participating in discussions with you on platforms we're not on. And we don't. But in spite of me banning this person multiple times, it doesn't seem to matter. Multiple sock accounts, hundreds of them, that YouTube tolerate. And as you correctly point out, if I was to retaliate, they would hold that against me in a heartbeat. But they'll tolerate harassment of me by this commenter and allow him to have hundreds of accounts to harass me with. So I effectively can't ban this person. Why? Well, because YouTube allows people to have hundreds of sock accounts on the same name. I know. Meanwhile, the actual argument is as follows. Earth is measured flat by everyone, always and without exception. If you're in a plane, you're going to fly measuring your height off surface level for straight and level flight, called out by flight controllers on the ground when they tell you to ascend to a certain flight level. Flight level, measured from sea level and surface level. That's Earth being measured flat. There aren't any exceptions. If you want to develop a ball to believe in, you'll be measuring horizontal distance measurements and areas of equal altitude from Polaris to develop the systems that you use to wrap around a ball that are developed from flat Earth angle measurements and areas of equal elevation. These are all flat Earth prerequisites that are the only measurements of Earth, and they are all flat. So what do I get as a result of pointing out these facts? Well, I get censored. I get harassed. I get told to jump off buildings. I get told that I'm abusing my kids. None of which is the case. The only thing that actually is the case is that you, me, and everybody who measures Earth measure it flat. Why should I have to tolerate such abuse and scumbaggery from my opponents for being right and pointing out how Earth gets measured in all instances? It's not like I'm saying something radical. I'm talking about how Earth gets measured. YouTube is complicit in the sock account going stalking. Gang stalking, rather. Yeah, thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yeah, completely complicit. They don't give a crap. Like I say, they're more than happy censor me for talking about the same subject matters that other people on the internet can get away with talking. If you're talking about measuring areas of equal elevation, but after you describe the flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle to form a circle of equal altitude, you then go on to say because they're on a ball, in contradiction of the actual measurement you've described, then you're okay on YouTube. YouTube will tolerate you. But if I say you measure Earth flat with areas of equal elevation, that means Earth's measured flat with areas of equal elevation. That's a modus ponens argument, a logical consistency, as opposed to a logical inconsistency that violates the base measurement. When you say Earth's measured flat with areas of equal elevation and elevation angles off surface level, because Earth's a ball, that's a contradiction in terms. Oh, well, then you could be monetized. You can make a living. Me saying Earth's measured flat because it's measured flat isn't tolerated. It's absolutely outrageous. And I'm frankly sick of it. Now, it could be just because I'm incredibly unwell currently, but even when I'm sick, I haven't got enough money coming in to be able to have a day off sick. I've still got to run my YouTube channel in the face of sickness. Why? Because that's what YouTube have deemed reasonable. It's reasonable that I'm harassed constantly. It's reasonable that people can leave comments claiming I beat my kids in my own comment section and then YouTube not show them to me in YouTube Studio. It's an outrage how we are treated, frankly.
It's like you owning a shop in a mall and you ban someone from your shop and then he turns up in a new set of clothes and the mall insists that he's now allowed in because he's changed his clothes.
Yeah. Oh, well, he's got a hood on now. It's a different person.
It is exactly the same thing as that. Wow. And then you being the creator of videos. See, I've never created a video on YouTube. My comments, like when I leave a comment somewhere, it gets deleted or it's weird that you're having the same issues as someone who's not actually making the content. I figured you'd be able to see literally everything on there. But that's crazy.
No, it started off with me having to go into newest first, as opposed to unpublished comments. And then top comments became what I'd have to search for. Then top comments was removed from my YouTube Studio, so I can't search top comments anymore at all. So in other words, I have to go into a browser. Now, when you're limited for time, doing 3 jobs, and your daily routine is made up of going through the comment section for 2 channels and then getting on with the rest of your day. But no, I know I'll have to add an extra hour on so I can go through each and every bloody video on the browser tab rather than Studio, which is what it's designed for, so that I can find out if people are claiming I beat my kids to remove these scumbags from my channel. And when I'm getting views at all, it's absolutely cobbled tool crap. And then other scumbags say, oh, look, nobody's interested in Flat Earth. They don't mention that there's plenty of views to go around and they're dished out to people like Dave McKeegan and Simon Dan and not Professor Dave Explains. They get plenty of views when covering Flat Earth. Apparently there's nobody interested. What, in looking at Flat Earth? No, we're just censored. Like really heavily censored.
Simon Dan doesn't only cover Flat Earth, he measures Earth flat as well. And he got 1,000 of his mates to participate in exactly that.
Yeah. So YouTube will tolerate Simon Dan measuring Earth flat 1,000+ times from surface level for a surface level elevation angle measurement to the sun. Why? Well, because Dan's claiming that his flat Earth only measurement of surface level, it's called an elevation angle, elevation being off the surface, is a globe proof. Now, it's a contradiction in terms. It's a lie. But YouTube like lying to their audience. They're more than happy to promote bullshitters and liars like Simon Dan. And when I point out, no, you're measuring surface level, it's part of the angle you are measuring, and you are measuring Earth flat thousands of times. Oh, well, then just don't let Nathan reach any audience. Don't even let him reach his own subscribers. Remove him, essentially, from the searches. And then what do we do with the people who do search for flat Earth? Oh, well, we'll just put Simon Dan's video up for their indulgement while he lies to them about a flat Earth only measurement proving a globe. No, you're violating the base principle of your measurement. But because he says that means Earth is globe after measuring Earth flat 1,000 times, yeah, Dan's okay. It's okay to lie to you, the audience. Me saying you measure Earth flat, there's nothing else to add. It's just a fact. Dan's measuring Earth flat. Do I need to draw a conclusion when it's a measurement he's making?
Good. So it's very telling. It's very telling, though, isn't it? Really, Nathan? Because we've got to the bare knuckles of this discussion now, and we can describe and discuss how actually Earth is measured, and that's been measured for all these years, and that's the truth. And people don't want that information to go out there, so they'll do anything to try and stop it, and that's what they're doing with you.
Assassinate the character. Nathan's a character. Assassinate him. He's telling everybody the world's measured flat.
Because it is. By everyone, always, and without exception. That's the point. So when someone like Dave McKeegan comes along and says, Nathan says the NTSB need a flat Earth. No, they've got measurements. It's called pitch data, Dave McKeegan. They're measuring flight level off surface level with a measurement of surface level called mean sea level. You're seeing a repeating theme here. It's not like I'm saying something outrageous, is it? These are facts. Planes fly in straight and level flight. Now, do I need to prove it? Yeah, it seemed past tense that we did have to prove it. And we did prove it. With pitch data. That's measurements from black boxes used when investigating life and death. That's plane crashes. Now, again, am I saying something outrageous when I say that Earth is measured flat from sea level for straight and level flight? Is there something ambiguous in level flight? No, we've got measurements to show that is exactly what it means. Flight level from surface level, nose up with respect to horizontal, axiomatically proving beyond all doubt that Earth is and can only be measured flat. But if you're Dave McKeegan, you'll say, well, that means it's not flat. Well, it does. It means we are measuring Earth flat. There's no conclusion needed. It's a statement of absolute fact. But I'm sure Dave's not struggling. I'm sure he's not in poor health and struggling to maintain his view count. While other shitbags out there claim that, oh, no one's interested in flat Earth. Oh, they're plenty interested in what YouTube provides them, while my comments and replies are hidden from my audience. And so are my videos, hidden from my own subscription base, to the point where scumbags can show that statistically as being a massive drop-off in views. Well, my channel's still growing. I'm still gaining subscribers. But am I gaining views? Nah, because even the people who subscribe to me don't get delivered my content. They get delivered Dave's content while he lies to you about straight and level flight, measured off surface level, with mean sea level and altitude measured off the sea level. Perpendicular to a plane. That's what height is. Good.
Just going to say,
you're
it's all
public enemy
art
number one.
Sorry, Neil. I'm saying it's all art about face. I mean, when we talk about the mean sea level being the baseline for all measurements on Earth, straight and level flight, elevation angles, all what we're discussing, and people will turn around and say that's ludicrous and level's not level. Yet when you watch something like we watched yesterday or the day before of someone describing how latitude's measured from inside the Earth off a horizontal plane to a luminary, which is, outside of the ball that they're standing in. That's not ludicrous, is it? That's just perfectly normal.
Yeah, if you're going to say, oh, well, we measure what's on screen now. This is what Dave McKeegan and Simon Dan measured. It's an elevation angle measurement from surface level or sea level to the sun. One line forming the horizontal, the other forming the angle to the sun. Without the horizontal, you can have no angle. Now, this is a flat Earth prerequisite that Dave measured for 24 hours in Antarctica. I keep forgetting he's a complete idiot and was outsmarted by a frickin' tripod. This fugly golem couldn't even cope with his own equipment. But he's the one who'll be promoted while he lies about his flat Earth measurements and lies about NTSB pitch data measured from sea level for altitude. That's level flight being measured, parallel with the ground. Yeah, of course he will. Because that's what YouTube wants you, my audience, to see. Not me, not the facts, laid out in the most crystal clear of terms. Yeah, when a flight controller calls out your flight level for the aircraft, measured with an altimeter, reference to sea level, that means Earth's a ball? That's a complete contradiction in terms that you will be lied to about by people like Fugly Dave, who can't even use a frickin' tripod. These idiots that can't even manage to use an equatorial mount are dictating to you what the NTSB pitch data means. Yeah, because most people are lazy. They won't even look at the actual measured data. They won't even pay attention to the fact it's being described in a way that can only axiomatically be from a flat Earth. It's flight level. Does that mean a ball? Well, it does if you're watching Dave McKeegan, because he's having every single view funneled to him. That's what's happening. Please share the show. If you want to combat this, the only thing that we can do to overcome the horrendous YouTube censorship and the absolutely egregious situation where I can't even see my own frickin' comments in YouTube Studio, and if I do respond, they get removed in favour of people claiming I abuse my kids, then you have to share the show. That's the only thing we can do to combat this horrendous treatment we receive at the hands of YouTube, who promote scumbags and liars and deceivers.
Oh, we could put out a book too.
We could. I'm waiting for the copy that exists to be sent to me by QE. Now, I don't want to get too stroppy with him because his messages, as far as I can see on Skype, haven't been read yet. But when I'm impatient and poorly, I just want to get my copy of my book back from him, and he hasn't sent it me yet, which is deeply irritating. Now, hold off getting really stroppy with him for now, but it's going to reach a point where I start getting quite stroppy with the guy.
Just tell him, what if you die, like you said to Adam? Hey, what if you die? That's what I would do. Use his own wit against him.
Well, like I say, when I've
Probably
been...
like 10 miles deep in some woods, Nathan.
Probably. He's probably out playing with his bow and arrow or whatever. I don't care. What I do care about is getting my money increased so I don't have to be poorly and stressed about everything constantly with multiple jobs. Great video about censorship. What? Somebody's deleted the comment that was sent on the super chatter, but thank you very much, whoever you were, for the super chat. I only got to read it for a second before it was deleted. I assume that was...
See, we need to combat YouTube. That's what you need to combat.
Say again, Neil.
You got to go against them. If this is happening where they're deleting comments, then what's the point? I mean, aren't you using YouTube? Aren't you a customer of theirs?
Well, strictly, I'm an employee, aren't I? They're paying me.
Yeah, and who's the bigger customer base, Neil? The Globers or the Flat Earthers?
They're both delivering the same
there.
information. I'm delivering the same information. When what is on screen is presented by me, I say this angle is a measured angle to Polaris. The little star is Polaris. The angle can't come from hell. You can't measure the angle from the centre of a globe. It just means that the globe is a glorified protractor about which you will measure surface level for the corresponding elevation angle. That's what it is. But they will lie to you and say, oh, yeah, we measure from centre of hell. No, we don't. You can't get an elevation angle from hell. Oh, well, we measure it from the planar surface tangential to the ball. No, you don't. You measure it from the surface level. That's how it's measured. It's part of the angle. If you're only utilising a single point with respect to the surface, then you haven't got a straight line for an angle. So everything that they, the ballers, suggest requires Earth be measured flat and then converted into a position in hell so that you can believe you're on a ball based on the flat Earth measurement that you will require be measured from surface level. So if I say, well, we've measured surface level for an angle, but that means we're inside hell because Earth's a giant protractor, then what, I don't get censored because I'm bullshitting about being in hell?
I can't get my head around this. This is really like, I can't find words to explain how I feel about this. That people are actually explaining and demonstrating that the measurements that are taken for elevation angles, for mapping latitude and longitude, are all taken inside the Earth on a flat plane. I mean, how retarded is that? I can't get my head around it. And how people will just listen to somebody explain that with no qualms. It's unbelievable.
Not only explain it with no qualms, they'll get promoted algorithmically because they're suggesting that you can be in hell measuring an angle from a flat plane, the equatorial plane.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, me saying, well, we're just measuring the equatorial plane means heavy censorship.
It's fraudulent because we all know that isn't happening. It's an impossibility. Yet people are on YouTube with diagrams and explanations of how latitude grids and maps are being measured from the centre of Earth. It's a lie.
Yeah, it is absolutely a lie. What do we actually measure? Well, on screen now, there's a depiction of the equatorial plane inside what can be described as a glorified protractor. Well, this circle is what they will later draw maps on. Spherically. Like you're measuring through a ball? No, you're just measuring from the equatorial equator plane, basically. Like on screen. This circle of equal elevation derived from Polaris. If Polaris is at your zenith, as depicted here, it is directly above your head and you'd be at the North Pole. But north, south, east and west are still flat-only directions, and all angles with respect to Polaris dropping towards the horizon, to its outside extremity, that would be the equator, are measured from this flat surface. What's that? Oh, it's in a ball. No, it's not. Nobody's measuring angles inside a ball. We measure them on a plane. And the plane we're standing on is described as the equatorial plane. It's the plane that Dave McKeegan's EQ, that's equatorial mount, is referencing when he levelled his tripod to measure the sun for a 24-hour period with respect to the elevation angle from surface level with a tool that's referencing the equatorial plane. Now, but for the fact that Dave is a complete numpty and couldn't cope with his own equipment, he would have measured Earth flat for a full 24-hour period from the equatorial plane, like depicted here. Did he have a globe Earth wrapped around him? No, he did not. And suggesting that you've got parallel tangential planes means the surface level you're measuring has no surface reference to a ball. So what are we measuring? We're just measuring a plane. It's really simple. When you know how Earth is measured and how it's applied, you just measure the surface level. Like flights, for their straight and level flight parallel with surface level. That's what we measure. What's that? They convert from sphericity with gravitational 110-year out-of-date force pulling them. No, they don't. They just measure parallel to the ground. That's what they do. There's no complicated gravity being accounted for in equipment when a flight controller tells a plane to ascend to a flight level and then the black box records nose up to horizontal for the entirety of the straight and level flight measured off the measured sea level. That's just measuring Earth flat. But if you go to Simon Dan or you go to Dave McKeegan, they'll lie to you and get promoted by YouTube. Well, we get the mess around. Like I say, it's absolutely egregious and outrageous.
Yeah, that's the point I've been trying to get across to people, try to explain to them how they take their measurements from the center of the Earth, and they're just putting them on the surface that are measured from the beginning on the surface. And it seems like something so simple to comprehend. People just, they put up a wall and they don't want to hear it. It's like unreal.
They've been doing it for years. Eratosthenes started, didn't he? He measured angles on the surface of Earth, and then had to presume a 360-degree spherical sphere and put himself inside that with a line drawn across it, the plane, and then segment the angles from that plane outwards to the outward edge of the ball. They've been doing it all the time. It's stupid.
Yeah, but I try to point that out. Yeah, that's the surface you're showing me. You're showing me the surface. Nobody's going to the center of the Earth. This is how they duped everybody. And people just resist. They do not want to hear it. Then they take you into the, all the world is wrong and it's just you guys are right. No. It's just measured. That's it for everybody.
Yeah, we're not saying the whole world's wrong. Quite the contrary. I'm saying Dave McKeegan's measurement from surface level is Dave McKeegan's measurement from surface level. That's the end of the statement. There's nothing else to add. He's measuring Earth flat. So what, we're right and they're wrong? No, that's called the rock and the hard place. If they're wrong, because you say I'm wrong when I point out how they measure Earth flat, then they haven't got any Earth measurements. They rely on Earth being measured flat. That's how the ball gets created. If you don't measure Earth flat, you don't have any measurements to create a ball with. So you require Earth to be measured flat. That's why the censorship's so high. Before now, it was a game where flat earthers painted the world as being a ball that didn't work, rather than pointing out the ball works by measuring Earth flat in all instances and without exception. Now that we're pointing out that, the game's not so fun anymore because it's not rigged for flat earthers to explain to ball earthers how if we ignore that travelling north is a flat-only direction on a compass that's flat, with horizontal linear distance measurements on the flat maps, with the flat scales for the flat distances, then we can ignore all of the above and pretend north's above us. Inside a ball, on an equatorial plane that will measure the angles and reference the outside edge of a ball that we're not standing on. Then it's okay, because then we've ignored all flat Earth prerequisites and elevation angle measurements of surface level, or sea level. We've ignored the parallel sky and called Earth a protractor wrapped around us. And if we can just pretend that we haven't measured Earth at all, because the measurements of Earth are flat, very inconvenient, and just argue about how a horizontal linear distance measurement, that's flat, would preclude us from seeing a geometric horizon we debunked 5 years ago. Yet then we've ignored all flat Earth prerequisites and angle measurements and distance measurements that require the surface be flat for us to suggest that there's a limitation to our view based on ball belief. Ignore every single flat Earth measurement and only argue about not seeing too far, when too far is based on us measuring Earth flat with horizontal distance and elevation off surface level. So, but for the fact that we must measure Earth flat to assert that we see too far, it'd be very convenient if we just ignored those flat Earth prerequisites and went straight to the see too far bit, like every numpty flat Earther has done for the last 10 years. And if they do, they'll get promoted. Go ahead.
That's not the only... Sorry. I think Refracted wants to say something.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm digging Nathan going off on it. Like that's exactly the problem.
Well, you have other, that's the reason why you have certain people going around saying the most important thing we have to prove is that Earth is not turning. Once we can prove that, then we could declare to everybody that the Earth is flat. Look, it's not moving.
Let's just point that out. If I say Earth is not a giant roast chicken, it is not incumbent on me to prove non-positivity. I don't have to go away and debunk somebody else's claim that Earth isn't something. If you want to suggest that it is turning, then the burden of proof is on you. There is absolutely no requirement whatsoever for me to prove non-positivity. I don't need to prove it's not turning. You need to prove it is. And the globe Earth assertion of turning comes with Coriolis effect. That would be a non-inertial turning reference frame, turning beneath an inertial reference frame to show a not actual deflection of all items in the inertial frame of reference, as observed from the non-inertial turning frame of reference Earth as a sphere is claimed to be. Now, do I need to go through that, even though I can concisely debunk the assertion that we're not turning underneath aeroplanes 1,000 miles an hour at the equator? We're not. We'd notice. But it's your positive claim that you need to prove if you want to believe we are turning. But that's the game. We're told as flat earthers that we need to disprove turning. No. To be turning, we'd need a flat, non-inertial turning reference frame to be in effect. So we're going to need a flat, non-inertial turning reference frame that they haven't proven. Well, then Earth will be flat before we do anything, won't it? For it to be a non-inertial turning reference frame. No, we haven't got this necessity to debunk something that they haven't proven. It's called a burden of proof reversal. It's a fallacy that every flat earth idiot who decides that they're going to try and disprove a non-positive claim is engaged in. You don't need to succumb to a burden of proof reversal fallacy when someone suggests that we are turning. If you want to get into the discussion, understand how Coriolis deflection is claimed to work on a turning flat surface known as a non-inertial turning reference frame. Before we do that, know that that's flat. Their claim requires a flat surface level that turns that they haven't proven. So we're going to need a flat Earth for that then, before we do anything. Yeah, I'm not going to be getting involved with non-inertial turning flat reference frames. Because we'd notice if we were turning underneath things 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. We'd definitely notice if the Earth turned underneath you, me and everything else not attached to the surface when you jumped up and down or travelled in an aeroplane or went up in a hot air balloon. We'd notice. We don't because it doesn't happen. But wouldn't it be useful if we, the flat earthers, harped on about how we can prove it isn't turning? Yeah, that'd be very useful to our opponent's argument, because then we're not talking about the flat plane of reference that they're using in the example they can't demonstrate on Earth. We don't need to get involved in this argument. What we, the flat earthers, do need to do is understand exactly how flat Earth gets measured by our opponents. Dan's measured Earth flat 1,000 times. Why do you think he had to say, quote, "We don't only measure Earth flat," end quote, Simon Dan? Well, because he measured Earth flat 1,000 times. That's why he's got to disclaim that's not the only way we measure Earth. Yeah, well, it's the way he measured Earth. Flat. 1,000 times with surface level. And every single participant that joined in with Dan measured Earth flat. Oh, we don't only measure Earth flat. Yeah, we do. You, Simon Dan, only measured Earth flat 1,000 times. Dave McKeegan only measured Earth flat for 24 hours in Antarctica. I keep forgetting how stupid Dave McKeegan is. But for the fact that Dave McKeegan was outsmarted by his own tripod, he would have measured Earth flat for a 24-hour period from surface level with elevation angles. But unfortunately, he's very stupid. So if you're listening to Dave describe how the NTSB pitch data doesn't prove Earth's flat, then you don't understand how surface level, that's measured flat with sea level, the mean thereof, is used for altimeters to reference straight and level flight when investigating death. These are facts. Now, I don't need to make an explanation thereafter. I don't need to say, well, therefore Earth's flat. It's measured flat by everyone, always and without exception.
Well, the other way of measuring
George first.
The other way of measuring the Earth flat is with longitude, and we use this all the time: AM and PM. So anti-meridian and post-meridian. So anti-meridian would be less 1 hour or less 2 hours from Greenwich Mean Time, and post-meridian PM will be an hour or two past the meridian. So what is the meridian? The meridian is, imagine at Greenwich, you'll have a straight line north-south, and the elevation angles of the sun, anti-meridian before noon, and post-meridian after noon. So to measure longitude, you just need a clock.
Yeah. And they used to get the reference for their chronometers from Greenwich. I believe there's a bulb that they used to use back in the day that would drop on the hour so that you could reference from a long distance away where you reach the hour on the hour with a telescope looking at, I think it's Greenwich. Is that where they have that little ball that drops? I'll have to look it up. It's a while since I've looked this up. But yeah, precisely. These are all flat Earth measurements. They're all prerequisite two-dimensional Cartesian grids when in practical application. Like on your maps. Like if you want to know how flat Earth is, look at a map and look at the scale on it for distance. Is it curving? No, it's not curving. It's flat and linear and horizontal in nature. Like all distance measurements on map when referencing horizontal distances for direction. That's north, south, east and west. All of which require Earth be flat. Now, if I added on to the end of that sentence, but that means Earth's a ball, then I wouldn't have to be e-begging and pointing out how poor I am and how much I'm struggling to pay my 2 mortgages that I've now got as a result of being a flat earther and doing this for 10 years. That's the situation I'm in. Got to e-beg constantly just to pay the mortgages, 2 of them. Why? Well, because YouTube don't see fit to allow me an audience when I say we measure Earth flat with horizontal distance measurements like on maps. Is that somehow contestable? No, it's an absolute statement of fact. It's just I don't lie to my audience after the fact and say, therefore Earth's a ball.
I mean, everything that goes on this Earth has had to be developed around the fact that most of the Earth's covered in flat level water. Yeah, so that's what we've had to work with from day one. It's called sea level. Sorry, I mean mean sea level. The average level base, just in case we need to measure above the surface of this place. Heights put into place above and below the 0 degree base. Elevation now in place. Cartography, navigation, guiding the human race. Sea level. Sorry, I mean mean sea level. The standard basis for aviation travel. Straight and level flight. That's right. Reinforcing altitude day and night. Sea level. Sorry, I mean mean sea level. One continuous body of water seeking level throughout the world.
Very good.
That gave me goosebumps. That was so well read. That was exceptional.
Yeah.
You've really cheered me up with that. That has literally given me goosebumps. The hairs on the back of my hand are standing up. Perfect. That was brilliant.
That's a new one, right?
No, it's the same one, but it's just he did it better this time. He's done it 3 times so far.
It is new though, Neil, yeah.
Oh, is it new? Is that not the one that you read out previously? Oh, it is the new one.
It's the latest.
It's the latest one, yeah. But we have heard it twice before. It's just that was read much better this time.
Correct.
Excellent. That's my favourite as of now. It wasn't previously. The Greeks all knew that was the best one prior to this one, but that's now second fiddle. This is easily the best poem. That was brilliant.
Can somebody tell me how a sundial works?
Flat, Neil.
So I have a problem here because it says, contrary to flat Earth claims, the way sundials work provides strong evidence that the Earth is a rotating sphere, not a stationary flat plane. How is that possible?
It isn't. If you're describing how the sun moves over a flat sundial to give you the time, you're describing the movement of the sun with respect to a horizontal plane of reference that gives you the time on it. But if I say, oh, we're measuring the sun on a sundial with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, therefore Earth's a ball, then what? I don't have to suffer egregious censorship because I create a contradiction in terms in my statements. And that's what is the situation, by the way. If I completely contradict the actual surface level horizontal plane measurements that we in this instance get time from, then I don't have to suffer horrendous censorship for just putting a full stop at the end of the statement of fact. Yeah, we're measuring a horizontal plane, Neil. Statement of fact. Censor him immediately! Don't allow him to see any comments where he gets called a child abuser.
I mean, it's something
Yeah,
so
the sundial
simple.
works
It's
the same
measuring
way
angles,
as
shadows.
the claim
Hold
of
on, George.
Aristophanes.
Neil first. Then George. Go ahead, Neil.
No, I'm just saying it's so basic. It's measuring shadows. It's talking about angles. These things cannot be acquired on a ball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly
George.
my point. It's the casting of shadows on the sundial. Like Nathan was saying in Greenwich, there's this massive ball that they drop. Yeah, that's representative of the zenith of the sun. So when the sun is right above, on its zenith, 90 degrees above your head, that will be 12 noon. So anti-meridium and post-meridium, AM and PM.
Perfect. Is there anything else? Because I do need to do a little call to action. So if you are watching this and you haven't done so already, please smash the share button and stick this video on your favourite social media platform, be it Skype or Bebo or MySpace or whatever it is you're using. There's only a couple of clicks, and whatever it is that you use as your social media platform will appear in that little box that appears when you click on the button that says share. One more click and it will deliver that link for this show to your social media platform. In reality, more likely than not, X or Facebook. So please share the show on Facebook and X. Bebo, MySpace and Skype being defunct, obviously done for humorous effect. But yeah, it'd be great if you did actually share the show if you haven't done so already. If you have already clicked the share button, a massive thank you to you for doing so. That is the only reason we currently have over 70 people watching, because people share the show on a regular basis. So as I say, if you haven't done so already, please click the share button, and if you have, thank you very much indeed. Also, if you'd like to support this channel, I am struggling financially. It's a horrendous thing to have to admit as an eBayer. That's my second job. Try and get the job I'm doing correct. As a YouTuber, it's a struggle to actually pay the bills at the moment. Now, that could be because I've had a couple of days off sick. Should really be in bed right now. I'm feeling the pain as we speak, but it'd be great if I could actually keep the lights on and keep the mortgages paid. So if you did want to support me via PayPal or Patreon, or indeed the Super Chat, then those links are below this video. So if you have, obviously there's been a couple of Super Chats already. Thank you very much indeed. I really do appreciate it. And over the course of this week, there has been several people who have supported me via PayPal. Now, it isn't the case that I have to go to the extremes of starting up GoFundMes, but it will eventually reach that point if I don't receive some financial support. So as much as it is painful to have to e-beg, that's the situation that befalls me, because I'm talking about Earth being measured flat and then not saying that Earth's a ball after measuring Earth flat. So as a result, I get censorship, and therefore I'm struggling financially and do rely on my audience and their generosity just to get by, which is unfortunate, but that's the way of things. So I am literally sticking my cap out in front of me and doing the e-begging thing. Hopefully it won't come to the point where I have to do a GoFundMe campaign just to keep the bleeding lights on. There you go, that's it. That's my call to action done. Painful and embarrassing though it is to do so. Right, what else have we got to talk about? We've got at least 10 more minutes, and yeah, whether or not my painkillers are wearing off, but I'm really starting to feel the pain, so hopefully you guys can chat a little bit more before we do round out this show early, which I don't really want to do if I don't have to.
I saw that AI vid of you jumping around with the book. Is that book real?
Well, the book isn't written yet. That's why earlier on in this live show I'm getting a bit stroppy with QE, probably unnecessarily. That's mainly my illness coming out of me. But when I do finally get it from QE, the only copy that currently exists, I can carry on working on it and eventually actually get the damn thing published, because there's been maybe a 12-month delay on this book, which is frustrating in and of itself, hence me being a microphone salesman as opposed to a book salesman currently, which is getting even more irritating because I just don't want to do it anymore. But I do want to sell my book, just need to get it finished, but I need to actually have it in my possession to do so. And yeah, I won't get too stroppy with QE. Like I say, he hasn't actually read the messages I've sent to him. I've sent him multiple, but he just hasn't read them according to my Teams updates that shows you when someone's looked at the messages. So I'm not going to get too stroppy with him, because I did that with Adam. I did it about 3 weeks ago when I started getting more sick. I'm like, why are you ghosting me? And he's like, I do have a life. I'm doing other things. I'm not ghosting you. I just haven't seen your messages. That was Adam, not QE. So I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. So I don't necessarily want to fall out with QE over this by the same token, if you know what I mean. But still, it's irritating and stressful, and I'm under the weather. So I'm constantly in and out of hospital. But to answer your question, is that the book cover? No, the book isn't finished. There isn't a book yet. It's still in the drafting process, so there is no book currently. There will be as soon as I can get hold of it and finish it. But that's down to QE, and I'm sure he will send it to me as soon as he reads my messages. But once I do, there will then be a book, and then there'll be a cover. But Len Lennox, shout out to you, by the way, Len Lennox. I really appreciate it. If you want to check out who Len Lennox is, just go to the videos tab on my homepage, and you'll see me republishing 2 or 3 of Len Lennox's AI videos of me doing backflips and looking like an astronaut, doing twirls and stuff. Extremely amusing, if not slightly unnerving, as I turn into a completely different person in one of them. Like, the AI is interpreting what it thinks I am and turns me into a different person, which is just weird. Other than being a little bit unsettling, it's got, like I say, me and what AI interprets this space around me to be, with me jumping over desks, doing backflips, and then presenting a book that doesn't exist yet, and saying, "Buy my book," in a weird voice that isn't my own. So it's the first time I've had to do it. When I republish them, there's a little tab underneath the YouTube studio where it says, "Is this altered content?" And it asks you a series of questions like, is this presenting an individual doing something that they didn't actually do? Now, when I'm doing backflips, it's like, no, I definitely didn't do that. I'm like, yes, definitely this is altered content, so that YouTube can keep a track of what is and isn't real on their website, which is perfectly reasonable. I'm not moaning about having to tick that tab. But yeah, those are not really, in case you didn't realise, me doing the backflips. I can't do a backflip. I certainly can't do a backflip with 180 turn in midair, which is what I'm doing on one of them. But yeah, that's Len Lennox. So if you could go and check out that video on my channel, you'll see a link to Len Lennox, who only had about 12 subscribers. I'll have to check if he's hopefully got some more subs off the back of that. But yeah, go and check him out and go and subscribe to Len Lennox.
Listen, there's been a delay because certain things have transpired in between. But I understand you're in financial distress. Don't rush to put it out before it's completed. Everybody's got to get together and got to get this thing going, like we were going before this thing happened, and get the book out properly. Hang in there, Nathan.
Well, like I say, Neil, at the moment I'm having to e-beg. Like, I hate having to say this, because typically I can say, well, I'm just on the right side of the knife edge. Well, it deeply upsets me when I'm not on the right side of the knife edge, because suddenly it affects the rest of my family around me. Like, it puts undue pressure on my wife. And I don't like that. You know, generally speaking, for a start, let's just point this out. While I do this show each day, my kids and wife are on the other side of that door over there. Now, I'm in the communal space, lounge, if you will, which completely gets converted every single day I do the show. Let's say I bring out cameras, I bring out lights, I bring out microphones. All of the equipment comes out from the sides and is now around. So there's hot lamps everywhere, cameras, microphones, expensive equipment, monitors, projectors sometimes, although when it's summer I don't like it because it's too hot. But there's equipment. In other words, it's not conducive for kids to be running around. Well, that means that in a 2-bedroom apartment, my wife and kids have to endure being in a very limited amount of space for however long I do the show for. Now, they have put up with this crap for 10 years. Now, obviously, the kids haven't been alive for 10 years. My eldest daughter's only 9, but you get the idea of what I'm pointing out. They're very tolerant in the incredibly small space that we occupy, so that I don't have to have my audience put up with my kids making noise in the background for the most part. Now, their tolerance is pushed to the absolute limit when I go, I am actually struggling financially, and I'm putting my hand out. They don't or shouldn't have to put up with that when I've been 10 years as a YouTuber fighting for the greater good of Flat Earth. And what I'm fighting against isn't my inability to produce videos of a decent quality. It isn't my inability to present well or string a sentence together. It isn't my inability to use a tripod like Fugly Dave McKeegan. I'm not incompetent. But the people who are get all the views directed towards them, while other videographers suggest that Flat Earth's dying when they look at the statistics and suggest that statistically Flat Earth's on a decline. No. Flat Earth's being censored. But people still search it and get directed to our opponents. So 10 years into the game, I've got to stick my cap out in front of me and explain to my wife why I'm struggling to pay our mortgages. Very, very upsetting. But that's the way it is. Somebody's just sent me a PayPal, so I should really check out who that is. Might be one of my eBay sales. Might be somebody being generous. We'll find out in a moment.
See, there you go. People are going to help.
Shout out to Michael. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. The PayPal donation, Michael, really is appreciated. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
People will gather together and they will put their funds together and they will get you through this time. You have a great community here. I don't have to tell you that. You know you do. But just don't rush to get it out before it's time.
Also, though, on that, I'm not interfering, but you know what happened with Adam. You need constant copies of that up-to-date copy in places or with the trustworthy people, so that you've all got it to hand. Just saying.
Buried
Indeed.
under a tree, which only you know.
Say again?
Oh, never mind.
Under a tree. I won't ask to repeat.
He said it's buried under a tree, which only you know. Okay, well, here's the deal. This thing has to get work done. We gotta start getting busy again. Certain circumstances cause us to get lackadaisical, and now it's just like it's getting. To me, it feels like it's getting pushed off, and it's not getting that much attention. This needs the final attention that it needs to get it out before the holidays, because I have people that I want to buy copies for. This is very important to get it out by the holiday.
Well, that's down to me. To be honest, Neil, the pressure in that regard will go on to me. Once I get hold of it, I need to go through it and do a final draft, and then it'll go off to the publisher. But that is down to me actually being able to do it. And for that, I can't do it with assistance. It's got to be me going through it to do that final drafting process. And obviously, I'm eternally grateful to everyone's helped up until this point. But yeah, I do need to retake ownership of it and get the work done to finalise it and then get it out to the publisher. But, that will happen in time. I'm not going to rush it. I will get a good book finished in due course. But it doesn't alter that. What annoys me more is that the only reason that book was initially created was to mitigate for my financial hardship. So here we are, 2 years later, and it still isn't published. That's frustrating. But there we go. Putting my hand out's frustrating. Having to sell microphones is frustrating. It's all frustrating. Like I say, the only thing that isn't frustrating is the argument itself. And this is why people support me, right? This is why I'm receiving PayPals and Patreonage and Super Chats. Because when it comes to the actual argument, there isn't one. There's no argument here. Earth is measured flat by everyone, always and without exception. If you don't believe me, just go and look at any of your guru's measurements if you're a ball believer. Go and look at Simon Dan measuring Earth flat 1,000 times with his participating audience and tell me that Earth isn't measured flat. Because then you'll be in that hard place where you have to deny the fundamental base premise of Earth measurement used by Simon Dan to suggest, by way of egregious lies and deceit, that you're on a ball when measuring Earth flat. Because that's what he's doing. So in terms of the argument, we've finally reached a point where there isn't one. There is no argument about Dave McKeegan's 24-hour measurements of Antarctic elevation angles. But for the fact he was outsmarted by his own tripod, the Dumbo. He'd have measured Earth flat for 24 hours off surface level. The equatorial plane is equatorial mount that he couldn't quite cope with using. That's a flat planar measurement off surface level for an angle to be an angle. What's that? It wasn't a flat measurement. So you haven't got any measurements then. You haven't got any angle measurements to the sun for 24 hours, but for the fact that Dave McKeegan couldn't cope with a tripod. Yeah, they are flat Earth measurements. They're angles off surface level. That's exactly what they are. Reference to the equatorial plane you think is in hell. Well, it isn't. This diagram showing you an equatorial plane that the EQ mount is referenced to in hell has no bearing on anything other than the flat plane you're actually going to be measuring for 24 hours, unless you're Dave and you can't cope with the tripod. Like I say, this isn't an argument anymore. It's just us taking the piss out of the people that YouTube actually funnel all the views to and make all the money off the subject because they add to their flat Earth measurements how Earth is a ball. Like Simon Dan. Oh, we've measured Earth flat with elevation angles, elevation being off surface level, for it to be an angle measurement. And now that means we can measure the ball sphericity. No, you can't. You're violating the base principle measurement. It's a contradiction in terms if you suggest the surface you just measured flat is now curving after extrapolation of the measurements you took off the flat surface. They're surface level measurements. So it comes to the argument, it's the only thing that isn't stressful. But that's the point, isn't it? Because we haven't got to argue anymore, and anybody listening to my show knows that it's no longer an argument. It's just a statement of absolute fact when it comes to Earth measurement. The same ones that we whistle past for 10 years as flat earthers, while we were helping our opponents by ignoring that north, south, east and west are planar directions, ignoring that the horizontal distance measurement to the horizon that's claimed to be blocking boats and buildings is a flat Earth horizontal linear distance. Or that the elevation that you're going to calculate 1.22 times the square root of the observer's height off a measured flat Earth to claim you've got a distance to horizon in the first place to block boats and buildings. Yeah, you're going to need 3 flat Earth prerequisites and surface level measurements to make this assertion that every flat earther whistle past for 10 years. But if I say, if we measure Earth flat with horizontal distance measurement and we measure our height off surface level to achieve a parallel eye level with surface level, then Earth's a ball because I can suggest there's a distance to horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet off a flat Earth that we measure with linear distance. Horizontally. Flat. Therefore it's a ball. Then I won't get censored? What an absolute disgusting affair. YouTube are scum.
Hey, does the sundial predate the globe? I think it does, right?
Yes, Neil, it does.
So then this is baloney because it says that in a flat Earth model, it would always be vertical 90 degrees because there is no axis of rotation. This is not how a working sundial are constructed. They were constructed way before the ball. There's contradictions all over this. And if people can't see that when they look certain things up and read them, that they're whistling right past all the flat Earth proofs, then they deserve to stay on the ball. Keep spinning.
Yeah, time requires
It's not just
a
sundials.
horizontal plane.
Not just the sundials.
You need a flat Earth.
Cartography, mapping, all of that predates the globe.
Yeah.
Well, it's all from sea level as well.
Yes, so it has nothing to do with rotation. And everything I'm reading, they're talking about angles and shadows.
It's an angle.
What's going on here?
What's going on is the contradiction is what's favoured. If you contradict the surface level measurement of Earth as a horizontal plane, then YouTube will tolerate you and promote you. Because you're claiming these flat Earth prerequisite elevation angle measurements, surface level measurements, and in this case, sundials, actually prove a ball. No, they don't. They contradict the initial measurement. But saying the contradiction after the fact means YouTube will promote you. It's a disgusting state of affairs. Lies are promoted.
Yeah, and this is the last thing I'll read because that's obvious what's going on. For an accurate sundial, the gnomon, the part that casts a shadow, did I pronounce that right? Gnomons, the gnomon's angle, must be angled to be perfectly parallel to the Earth's rotational axis. That's a straight up lie.
Yep. When my computer's starting to hang and things are starting to give me the whirly whirl, my chat's disappeared. So for whatever reason, I'm now getting messed around even on my own live stream. So I think it's probably the most appropriate time to round out and say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared the show, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and in this case more than ever, hit me up on PayPal, Patreon, smashing the super chat, joining as a patron, and all that good stuff. Once again, thank you to Discord and G+ Panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.